for the Tomkai Road prototype vented low water crossing sediment reduction and habitat improvement project, CR 237D at milepost 6.17, and if appropriate, approval of resolution adopting the proposed mitigated negative deck. Sponsor Department of Transportation. Mr. DeShiel. And this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And has public notice been established?
Yes, it has.
And any additional correspondence or telephone calls received?
No, we have not.
Okay. All right. Mr. DeShiel.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. The Tomkai Road project really began in 2001 when the various agencies contacted the Department of Water Resources, Fish and Game Department, over concerns about 9 water fords that we have on a section of road in the extreme north part of the Redwood Valley as you would go through into Willits. It's actually a very old traditional wagon road dating back to the 1800s. I understand it used to be the main mode of travel north into Willits. At any rate, their concern was expressed to the department. We were put under a cooperative enforcement action by the regional board. That's the lowest form of enforcement. There's no fines associated. We're simply required to prepare a report and to report to them twice a year on our progress, which we've done since 2001. On March 13, 2002, then Director Calvert and myself conducted a public meeting workshop. It was posted and attended by many area residents. The upshot of that workshop was to find a direction of all the options that were looked at, which included closing the road, seasonal closure, realigning the road, or possibly doing what we call an improved ford, as well as bridges were discussed, and the overwhelming votes were to do something to keep the road in service and keep a road through there. There was only one vote or comment to close. With that, the department went to this board and got the authorization in 2002 to begin seeking grant funds. We've been trying ever since then to get grant funds. In 2003, we did do a negative deck for a vented low water crossing prototype that was approved. The funding fell through, so we're back to you today with a refreshed negative declaration to build this. I'd like to, need to be next to this mic. Basically, the 9 fords and the study area are shown here on the map. They involve about 4 large properties, and the fords are all the way along Cave Creek. The road winds in and out of Cave Creek going north. The proposal is to build one vented low water crossing at the extreme south end of the project area, and we have a consultant, Rao and Associates, that was also looking at the feasibility of realignments. The reason that first ford made sense was because any of the realignment options really involved making that one crossing before we realigned anything. The prototype low water crossing will also give the department an opportunity to study how it affects the migration of gravels. Again, this is a salmonid habitat. They wanted to make sure that the spawning gravels could move in the creek, but yet we didn't want the expense of building 9 bridges, which would be very costly. So that's really the nature of this project, and with that, I'll just submit to questions or public hearing.
To the board, Supervisor Pinchas.
Howard, what is there money to do? I mean,
Yes, we have.
it doesn't say on the summary sheet the cost or anything.
I believe the grant that we have right now, I could look at it, but it's an EPA grant that we've received.
On the summary sheet, it says not applicable anymore.
Yeah. We do have funding to build this prototype. I believe there's $500,000. You know, unfortunately, this used to be my job back in 2002, but now Alex, my staff engineer, does this stuff, and I'm not as up on it as I should be.
So when you plan on doing this?
This year.
Okay,
We need to build
because
this
of
year.
this order from the water board, what's the plans of the other 8 crossings?
Well, right now, under cooperative enforcement, their view is that if we're progressing, you know, and they've looked at us every year, if we were applying for grants and we weren't getting grants, that was okay. We were studying it.
Okay.
We've, 5 counties came in and did some studies. The point was that they just wanted us to show progress every year. So since 2001, we've shown progress.
Is anybody looking at the possibility of putting the road strictly on the west side of Cave Creek and do away with where it goes back and forth on all those cross, and then go clear up to the Hearst Bridge?
Rao and Associates, one of their work items in the contract they were given, the consultant contract, was to look at that. There is a geotechnical report that actually does not favor that option. That report's not done yet, and that's really not the nature of this public
Yeah.
hearing. This public hearing concerns the construction of the prototype low water crossing, but that is being looked at as part of the EPA grant, as looking at that alternate route to go up along the ridge.
And
But
even if that would be the way to go, it wouldn't affect this crossing, right?
this crossing would be necessary. Furthermore, it's a prototype, which means if the agencies don't like it, they can tell us to tear it out. I mean, we're hoping that doesn't happen, but
Supervisor Delbar, I believe, was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. DeShiel, as you stated, we've been trying to find the funding for bridges and trying to find funding for one bridge is hard enough. Try 9 of them
Right.
is extremely difficult. But we've applied for and have sought funding through grants and other sources. With this proposal, how much water, what kind of water flow are we talking about that will make this uncrossable?
yeah. A 10-year event will basically put water over this ford. These vents are designed for the 10-year event, and then they're like a spillway, and the water builds up and goes over. That means a 10% chance in a year that you won't be able to cross at a given time. Frankly, that's the situation today. When there's a large rain event, you can't go through. What we're attempting to do is, you know, have the road in a condition where 90% of the time it's passable, and for a fraction of the cost of building bridges that would withstand, full 100-year passage.
So what type of improvement are we actually going to get
We-
as far
we-
as days of ability to cross the ford?
I would say that you'll be able to cross the ford 90% of the time. In other words, only in those high rainfall events where the
As
water
opposed to-
rises.
As opposed to the status quo.
As opposed to the status quo.
Okay.
Also, the status quo is we're driving through the creek, which is just not acceptable to the resource agencies. It would get us out of the creek. We would be on basically a large arch structure, 20-foot wide bottom, that would allow the gravels to flow through. Then during large events, the waters would flow over, probably scour a hole and grade some material. What we're going to study is, we believe during lower flows, the gravels will wash through and equalize out. And, typically you design a bridge to just let the whole flow go. And those would be, millions each for 9. It would just be horrendous. We have built similar structures to these with our own forces, county forces, for, $300,000, $400,000. It's really